Hair-trigger tensions in the Middle East briefly squeezed tighter this morning. The U.S. now has warships carrying cruise missiles in the eastern Mediterranean and also an aircraft carrier group within striking distance of Syria. It's in the Red Sea. Earlier, news agencies reported Russian radar installations had detected 2 ballistic objects over the eastern Mediterranean. At first, reaction from both Syria and Israel downplayed those reports, saying no missile launches had been picked up. But about an hour later, Israel admitted it had been testing an anti-missile system with the U.S. Now, the U.S. made it clear it did not launch any missiles. There is certainly a lot happening on this story, in Washington in particular. CBC's Bonnie Allen is there. Bonnie, U.S. President Barack Obama meets with key congressional leaders later this hour, and he really needs Congress behind him before the U.S. can take any military action. How difficult will it be for him to win over the skeptics?
Well, it is certainly a difficult argument because there are people on many different sides, and Obama is trying to make the most of his last hours here in Washington as he flies to Europe later today and then on to Russia for an economic summit later in the week. So he'll be away for the next week while Congress begins to debate and consult this privately because, of course, Congress doesn't reconvene until next Monday. Now, this hour, he will be meeting with House Speaker John Boehner, a Republican, as well as the Democratic House Leader Nancy Pelosi and 12 other key members of Congress. So he will be making the argument as to why there's enough evidence to suggest the Assad government used chemical weapons and why a military action is warranted and would be effective. Now, yesterday, Obama did get a boost from 2 key Republicans, Senator Lindsey Graham as well as Senator John McCain. McCain, of course, being a former presidential rival, now a tentative ally. Now, coming out of that meeting, both of the men said that they are convinced that the Assad government used chemical weapons on more than 1,000 innocent civilians, and they do say they believe action is necessary. Now, here's a copy of the draft legislation that Obama has put forward. Now, they say that they do have significant concerns about what's inside this. They want the wording to be tightened to make sure that the scope of the military action is limited, no boots on the ground. On the other hand, they also are calling for a much broader strategy, saying there needs to be support and there needs to be weapons for the opposition army. So they say they want to vote for this military action, but they do have some concerns. This is what John McCain said this morning.
I'm encouraged by the conversation that Senator Graham and I had with the president, his commitment to degrade Bashar Assad's capabilities to deliver chemical weapons, which would mean degrade his assets, and also increase the assistance to the Free Syrian Army so that they would have a more level playing field and reverse the momentum on the battlefield.
And Bonnie, later today, 2 key figures in the Obama administration will be part of the first public hearing on U.S. plans for military intervention. What's expected?
That's right. Secretary of State John Kerry, as well as Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, will be going before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It's a public hearing tomorrow. There will be a classified briefing. Now, this committee is really responsible for going over international policy. And one thing you can expect Kerry to be arguing is that the use of chemical warfare is a threat to neighboring countries, destabilizing the Middle East. We're talking, of course, about Israel, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, and also if could fall into the wrong hands or encourage others, such as North Korea and Iran, Hezbollah, or terrorist organizations to use chemical weapons. Suhana?
Thanks so much for that, Bonnie. That's Bonnie Allen in Washington.